Screams echoed everywhere. Ah, help me. The horrifying noises mixed with the sound of flesh being gnawed away made the air grow thick. Soldiers collapsed. Their bodies had been corroded by the pestilent dust until they no longer resembled humans. Jiang Chen stood amid that nightmarish scene, his gaze ice cold and utterly unshaken. In the distance, Yan Yunfeng and the others were frozen, so terrified they couldn't bring themselves to speak. When the troops had been completely wiped out, Jiang Chen cast a brief glance at Kitaaraki. His voice was calm, yet carried an authority that made people tremble. You, from this day forward, will become their new god. She stared at him in shock, her voice trembling. Master, did you say that? I don't understand. Jiang Chen turned, his gaze sweeping over the remaining slaves, his eyes as dark as an abyss. Before, when I spoke of annihilating a nation, I only intended. But now that I think about it, that would not be enough. If you destroy 8 divine societies, a 9th will inevitably arise. 3 days. I give you 3 days to forge your own image, to become the savior of the Enho kingdom. He stepped closer, his heavy hand settling on her shoulder. His voice was cold and decisive, like a blade. In 3 days' time, on this land stained with sin, I will sweep away every obstacle. All those who transfer posts in District 1 and District 2 and refuse to obey orders will become food for the Kihichuang. Then we'll see whether they understand what it feels like to be treated as sacrificial offerings. When Kitaaraki heard that, her chest tightened. Her eyes glistened, and tears streamed down her cheeks as she trembled and whispered, Master. Jiang Chen merely raised an eyebrow. His cold voice rang out, as for shaping your public image, I don't think I need to teach you anymore. She immediately fell to her knees and bowed deeply. Her voice was choked, but determined. Your subordinate understands. Thank you for your guidance, Master. I will carry it out at once. Seeing this, Yan Yunfeng and those behind him stood frozen, unable to believe their eyes. The Sato family's famed, haughty reputation was now submissively bowing before this man. Truly, if you live long enough, you will see the most absurd things. In the capital of the Inoa Kingdom, in the central district of Sector 1, where the 8-banner Divine Hall stands, the air in the Great Hall was thick to the point of suffocation. Yachi Yusaku Kimura's austere face was carved with fierce scars, and veins stood out on his forehead from rage. His hoarse, furious voice echoed through the room. Jiang Shan came straight from District 3 and has slaughtered over 1,000 of our people. Unable to restrain his anger, he shoved the doors open and stepped out into the plaza before the shrine, standing tall amidst it all. With hundreds of subordinates awaiting orders, his voice rolled like thunder. He's nothing but a cold-blooded butcher. Today, I will slaughter him and carry out heaven's justice. But no sooner had his words ended than a scornful, ice-cold laugh descended from the sky. Act as heaven's agent. How ridiculous. Yachi Yusaku Kimura snapped his head up, his eyes sweeping around warily, visible only up above. Jiang Chen stood there with a proud bearing, his gold eyes looking down. He snorted lightly. His voice, deep and hoarse, seemed to strike straight into the listeners' hearts. You dare do this to the common people? Can't I do the same to you? You wouldn't know what pain is unless the blade cuts your own body, would you? In his hand, a human head was clenched tight, blood dripping onto the ground, the sight sending chills through everyone below. In the distance, Yan Yunfeng and his teammates stood stunned, watching. His voice was full of astonishment mixed with admiration. Someone from Lan country. Damn, he really is from Lan country. The way he appeared is truly shocking. Qingmai sat to one side and sighed softly. Does anyone else feel like we're the baggage left out of the battle? Shunning swatted, glanced over, and forced a wry smile. You're not the only one, but in a battle of this scale, if we barge in, we'd only die needlessly. In the sky, Yangchen cast his eyes around. The corner of his mouth curved into a cold smile. He lifted his hand and the dust swarms immediately surged out like a reverse waterfall, churning into a pitch-black sandstorm that swallowed the sky. It seems the masters of the 8 great divine societies are all here, he said. Goody, saves me the trouble of hunting them down one by one. No sooner had the words left his mouth than the dust swarms transformed into countless savage waves, surging straight toward Yachi Yusaku Kimura and the group of masters from the Ingwa nation. A subordinate screamed out in alarm, Society Chief. Faced with an onslaught like a deluge, the masters immediately deployed a massive defensive formation. The formation's light flare and a gigantic shield rose to block the front. Defensive formation. Activate. Yachi Yusaku Kimura gritted his teeth and quickly commanded, You lot, hold the 9-fold barrier in place for me. I will deal with Jiang Chen personally. As long as he dies, the 9-fold barrier will collapse, Understood. The experts immediately split up. Some maintained the defense, while others concentrated on counterattacks. Old Yachi Yusaku Kinra tightened his hands. His fingers moved like the wind, forming a chain of hand seals as he murmured ancient incantations. A fierce aura surged out, and he shouted, "Domain fully open. Evil things be expelled. Anya, divine dominion guard." No sooner had the words fallen than the space behind the shield cracked and a colossal, indistinct entity materialized. Its body, hundreds of meters tall, was hazy in the mist, its face cloaked in shadow. The monster stood silent. Each breath it took seemed to make the air itself tremble. In the blink of an eye, that form shifted into a gigantic armored man who gripped a blazing greatsword. A destructive aura filled the sky. A divine weapon. Feeling that surging pressure, the corner of Jian Chen's mouth curled, and a spark of excitement flashed in his eyes. "Good," he murmured. "The 9 transformations, truly perfect tuning. Let me warm up a bit." His whole body flared as fierce energy spread out. Jian Chen lowered his stance. Divine Idol Prison Sealing Body Trial Heaven War God Transformation. Fully activate. 2 streams of power collided, making the sky tremble. The giant sword in the Du hand sliced across the air as the overwhelming technique detonated. Main Feng Tram. The sword light flared, rending space in two with a force capable of crushing an entire mountain range. Jian Chen stood motionless, showing no sign of evasion. From afar, Yen Yunfeng cried out in panic. "It's no good, that was Kimura's faint ultimate. Back when he was at the 5 circuits, he once used it to kill even those at the 7 circuits." Xingmei froze, her heart seeming to stop. "Jian Chen, he's not dodging." Shenling only raised an eyebrow and sneered, "What is there to fear? So what if a 5th circuit strikes a 7th circuit? Don't forget our Jian Chen at the 4th circuit once cut down a 9th circuit." As the fierce sword bore down, Jian Chen slammed a foot forward, his form turning into a streak of lightning as he surged up to meet it. His right fist clenched, his energy compressed to the extreme. He gave a low snarl. Train Gakuin. The punch burst forth. A gale rose as it struck the divine sword aura heaven. The space around them detonated. In an instant, Jian Chan's fist force dominated and crushed the sword guy. The sound of shattering rang out across the sky. Shockwaves blew up clouds of dust, sending warriors hundreds of meters away tumbling. The afterimage of his fist pierced through and struck the giant armored figure directly, causing it to crack open. Seeing that scene, Yan Yunfeng's group fell utterly silent, eyes wide and mouths agape. Then, they all cried out in horror. It smashed, completely smashed. Yachi Yusaku Kimura's giant armored avatar took a heavy blow. Its body staggered back, stamping the ground to keep its balance as the earth cracked beneath its feet. The towering phantom lifted its head, eyes flashing with rage. How could you use your flesh to withstand my heaven's sweeping void-cleaving slash inside the protective formation?" Yachi Yusaku Kimura glared, the corner of his mouth twitching with fury. "Impossible. Only the 4th transition. How could you withstand such a strike? You must have a defensive talisman." He ground his teeth and growled, "Fine. Let's see how I break your turtle shell." Having finished speaking, the old man straightened, his hands forming seals in rapid succession as he chanted. Spiritual power in the air surged violently. Behind him, the giant armor flared, streaks of dazzling light spraying across the sky. National fortune sustaining blessing, high celestial essence, divine power incarnate. As the incantation ended, a golden radiance enveloped the entire area. A fierce aura erupted from the golden armor. Seeing that, Jian Chen barely raised an eyebrow. "That golden light again. I hope this time it's not so weak that it bores me." On the other side, Yachi Yusaku Kimura gritted his teeth, pouring all his accumulated spiritual power into one explosive release. The entire armored avatar blazed blood red. He formed hand seals with both hands and shouted, "Word avatar, myriad phantasmic bodies." In the blink of an eye, the sky cracked open, and countless robe-clone silhouettes appeared as densely as a swarm of locusts, flooding the space. Each shadow carried a terrifying murderous aura, and they all surged toward Jian Chen as thousands of swords in the clone's hands swung down in unison. His right hand twisted slightly, and a black and silver sword materialized in his grip, its blade giving off a chill that froze the air. "Divine weapon, heavenly sin," he murmured, a cold, lethal glint flashing in his eyes. "Let's see whether your clone trick can measure up to the heavenly azure divine clan." Jian Chen stamped his foot. His body became a shaft of light as sword chi ran rampant. Above, tens of thousands of clones simultaneously unleashed their ultimate technique, their shouts booming like thunder. Myriad shouts, clear light slash. Myriad shouts, clear light slash. The sky blazed brilliantly in a sea of swords. Junshin looked up, his gaze as calm as still water, a cold smile lifting at the corner of his mouth. Just one move, he whispered. His hand tightening on the hilt as spiritual power surged violently within him. Blade of the Great Tao. The sword in his hand swung up. A colossal shaft of light exploded forth, slicing straight into the onrushing storm of sword chi and making the entire space feel as if it were torn apart by that absolute power. A gigantic torrent of sword energy raced across the sky in a perfect parabola, rotating a full 180 with no blind spot. The blinding white light seemed to rend the very fabric of reality. The blade descended. The ground cracked open. Whirlwinds surged up in waves, howling like 10,000 blades cutting through the air. That slash fell like the Reaper's scythe. Light flashed by. Old Heihachi Yusaku Kimura only had time to raise a hand to shield his chest, and a spray of fresh blood burst forth as a terrible cry rang out. His body trembled violently, his entire magical power shocked into disarray. Jian-Chen hovered in midair, his eyes narrowing indifferently. Is that all? This force is still far inferior to the Heavenly Azure Divine Clan. Below, the masters of the Eight-Banner Divine Society fell silent, lifting their heads to the spot where Heihachi Yusaku Kimura had just stood. Their divine lord, in a single strike, had turned to ash. The body was completely annihilated, leaving only a wisp of gray smoke drifting into the air. The protective barrier that had been shielding them also cracked like a spiderweb. Society chief, someone shouted, their voice filled with fear. This is bad. The barrier is about to break. He's been killed. The giant shield shattered into countless shards of light, and dust immediately poured in like a swarm of bees from a broken hive. Screams and cries of anguish rang out everywhere. The corded bodies were reduced to smoke and bones. No, don't. The entire battlefield quickly became a living hell. On the observation platform, Yen Yunfeng was frozen, eyes wide in disbelief at the scene before him. What kind of sword technique is that? I didn't even see the arc of the slash. Qingmai stood beside him, pale-faced, murmuring, terrible. Truly. Terrible. Is Heihachi Yusaku Kimura really dead? Zhen Liang squinted, his gaze drifting into the distance as his voice suddenly dropped. Wait, he doesn't seem to be dead. All eyes followed his line of sight. And sure enough, through the swirling smoke and dust, Heihachi Yusaku Kimura was still there, stumbling to his feet. A giant mirror glittering with light had appeared in front of him. Shunlang ground his teeth and shouted, "It's the Eight-Finger Mirror. One of the three great divine armaments of the Manhwa Kingdom. That thing has the universe's strongest defensive power. It can absorb the attack that just struck." Indeed, the mirror's surface flashed, drawing in the residual energy from Zhang Shan's slash. Old Kimura clenched the divine artifact tightly, his eyes bloodshot, and his face twisted with rage and arrogance. He burst into a mad laugh, his hoarse voice echoing through the air. Your sword technique before a divine armament is nothing but child's play. Jianshin looked at the scene before him, his gaze calm to the point of coldness, showing no hint of surprise. He gave his wrist a slight twist, and the sword in his hand once more traced a circle of blazing red light, the sword chi erupting like heavenly fire. Oh, is that so? Then let's try one more slash. Prison ceiling. Heaven-cleaving slash. A blood-red streak of light slashed down, carrying a momentum that made heaven and earth tremble. Old Heihachi Yusaku Kimura hissed at the sight and immediately swung the mirror in his hand. In an instant, the eight-fingered divine mirror enlarged, radiating a sparkling light like an unbreakable wall that completely blocked the slash. The mirror shook violently, absorbing all the energy from the technique. Then it suddenly counter-reacted, exploding outward with a savage surge of force. Whirlwinds spun up, rings of hair reversing and hurtling straight toward Zhang Shan. Devouring manifestations unfolded, and myriad phenomena reflected. The old fox's incantations rolled out like thunder. A purple flesh flared, lightning carving a slash across space, emanating from Zhang Shan's body. He frowned slightly as a searing heat rose from his arm. This electricity was unmistakable. He froze for a moment, his eyes briefly stunned. Oh, this move is mine. A jolt of surprise shot through him, but his body reacted in time and vanished from its original spot in an instant. When he reappeared, Zhang Shan was several dozen feet farther away. His hand gripped the sword's hilt, the corner of his mouth twitching in a wry smile. Damn, so I actually just cut myself. Puff. Opposite him, Heihachi Yusaku Kimura burst into a mad laugh, his voice full of glee. Haha, your own stick has turned against you. Taste it now, Zhang Shen. No matter how strong you are, you can't break the defense of the eight-finger mirror. In this situation, as long as I prolong it, you'll be the one to wear out first. Jian Shan looked at him, his expression no longer icy but tinged with a dangerous interest. He understood well that this divine weapon could not be underestimated. "Oh, I had planned to finish this fight myself," he murmured, his voice as light as the breeze. "But it seems the war god transformation has worn off. I do need more practice." His gaze shifted slightly as he called softly, "Xia Wu, it's your turn." A small snort sounded, and from the space beside them, Xia Wu appeared. Her eyes, as sharp as blades, stared straight at the mirror before them. "Humph, just a fifth to your divine weapon. And you think you can trouble the queen?" "But," she tilted her head and her tone slowed, "this thing is admittedly a bit tricky." With that, the girl's body flashed as spiritual power surged violently. In the blink of an eye, Xia Wu reverted to her true form, her aura flooding the space. She let out a low roar, the sound echoing like thunder. "If I alone am not enough, then 5 elements united, heaven-devouring beast." The sky itself seemed to tremble at the roar as spiritual power converged and spiraled, charging straight toward the 8-finger mirror and the old fox, Yachi Yusaku Kinara.